Welcome to Security Token Stories, brought to you by Security Token Academy, the leading educational platform dedicated to covering and facilitating the security token industry. I'm Derek Edward Schloss, Director of Strategy at Security Token Academy. Coming up on today's podcast, we have Luc Falempin, CEO at Tokeny, a Luxembourg-based tokenization platform for regulated securities. Tokeny is both a technology provider and an end-to-end platform to issue, manage, and transfer security tokens. Luc, I'm excited to have you on Security Token Stories. I've enjoyed following the Tokeny traction over the last year. I had a chance to speak with you in depth back in the spring of this year. I know you've had a number of big updates since we last spoke. I'm excited to get into them. Thanks for joining me on the episode today.
And thank you very much for the invitation. Indeed, it's, in a few months, many things happen. So I'm very happy to share all of this with you.
Before we get started learning about Tokeny, you told me previously that your first exposure to blockchain and Bitcoin was way back in 2011 when you were a student and you wanted to invest money in Google, if I remember the story correctly, but you were having trouble making the investment. What's the story there?
Yeah, exactly. I wanted to play a bit with my money. I had like 1,000 euros at the time, and so I wanted to invest. And one of the options to invest was to buy some Google shares. So I opened a new bank account for this, but the fees were way too expensive. So finally, I didn't even do it. And by searching on the internet, I found Bitcoin, and it was very intriguing. And I was in control of what I was doing, my investment. So I booked a few Bitcoins, and really it opened my eyes. Of course, now the banking system evolved a lot with the neobanks, digital banking, and so on. I guess today it's way easier. But yes, I saw the opportunity at that time, and I started to play with a wallet and with crypto pretty early. So it's still very useful today.
Yeah, you're certainly one of the earliest that I've interviewed to blockchain and kind of getting exposed super early on. Your first big startup was outside of the blockchain space though, right? So after you were a student, you decided to kickstart a company where you were building AI technology solutions for e-commerce. I think the company was called Iceberg Marketplace. What were you building at Iceberg, and how did that experience kind of kick things off for you at Tokeny eventually?
Yeah, indeed. We started with AI for e-commerce, and very quickly we built a very strong API for online marketplaces. So basically, with this technology, we are able to transform any website in a multi-seller website. So in Amazon, basically. So we are providing the technology to connect third-party sellers, thousands of third-party sellers with millions of products, updated every minute and so on. So it's very useful today at Tokeny, all of the skills and expertise I got from Iceberg, because you had like a big API, transactional API with different stakeholders using different interfaces on top of this centralized system. So we have a lot of similar elements today in our architecture, in our technical architecture.
Yeah, there's a lot of parallels to what you're building.
Exactly, and also 2 years ago when I sold my shares in Iceberg, I was like, okay, why everybody is talking about decentralized marketplace with crypto and blockchain? Whereas for the last 6 years, I was selling online marketplaces, centralized ones, and it's very good to be the centralized marketplace in the market. So it was quite intriguing, and I started to read a lot about blockchain and the whole techno. Very intriguing, very interesting.
Once you started kind of getting exposure to decentralized marketplaces, how soon before you got involved? Was it kind of security tokens right away? Were you focused on other crypto assets and crypto asset marketplaces at first? I guess how did that translate into eventually building the project that you're building now at Tokeny?
So I had some background in finance as well, because I studied in a business school and then managed a company. And my partner, Daniel Coer, has a lot of experience in the financial industry as well, because he worked at Clearstream and in other big companies in the finance industry. So we knew about finance. We knew this technology will totally be able to disrupt this industry. So the initial vision was to do security tokens or tokenized securities. But of course, the market was a bit, it was just the beginning. People wanted ICOs. So we were like, okay, let's start with ICOs. It's a perfect MVP actually.
Sure.
Because it was simple ERC20 tokens, simple compliance. We always did KYC, but it was gray area, so it was simple KYC, let's say, and a very high demand on the market. So we started with that. In 3 months, we launched the platform, monetized it. We grow the company, the tech team, and it gives us the resources, human resources, and financial resources to build a very strong platform for security tokens, and that's what we are selling today on the market.
That's great. So, Luc, what is the quick elevator pitch for Tokeny solutions today? At a high level, what problems is Tokeny aiming to solve, and what are the types of solutions that you're building to solve some of those problems?
Mm-hmm. So Tokeny is a white label platform to issue, transfer, and manage tokenized securities. So basically, our job is to represent assets, financial assets on the blockchain. So we are a tech provider. We provide technology tools. We are a toolbox for financial institutions to benefit from the blockchain. So basically, we don't reinvent the blockchain. We use mostly public blockchains to represent assets. And we, with our set of solutions, we enforce compliance, we provide automations, transferability, and so on. All of the advantages we can get from the blockchain without the complexity. So we provide nice interfaces, business workflows. When you use our systems, you don't have the impression to use blockchain, but you have the full power of the blockchain behind.
So you're building solutions for things like issuance and compliance. You're building solutions for, ongoing management and servicing. You're building solutions for transfers on chain. You're plugging into partnerships that will allow Tokeny-powered security tokens to trade on secondary exchanges. Maybe we can walk through each stage and have you just kind of quickly explain how Tokeny is building these solutions for both issuers and investors throughout each stage of a security token's lifecycle.
Yeah, yes, sure. So first of all, it's important to say that we are a white label platform. So we work with issuers or multi-issuers. We will provide the technology, but it's branded with their own brands, their own logo, colors, and so on. But everything is provided by us from a tech perspective. So the first set of solutions we provide is about the onboarding of investors. So basically, it's like an e-commerce cart. You can onboard your investors in a very user-friendly way. But of course, it's about securities, so it has to be compliant. And you cannot onboard an accredited investors from the US same way as you onboard a retail investor from Europe, for example. So depending on the profile of the investor, individual, company, with jurisdictions, the amount you will invest and so on, you have to follow different workflows. So we manage all of the disclaimers, there's different workflows, different documents and information we will need for the KYC and AML purposes. So all of this is managed by the platform, and it's a white label turnkey website for the issuer.
When you say white label, are the issuers that are approaching you to power their security tokens, is it really important for them to have that direct brand exposure to investors during this whole end-to-end process? Is that why you're positioning the platform as this white label solution?
Yes, there are different advantages to be white label. So first, the issuers are trying to convince the investors. So it needs to look nice, it needs to look professional, and the investors, they don't care about Tokeny. They care about this project, so they don't want to see Tokeny's branding everywhere with Tokeny. Are they taking fees? Blah blah blah. No, they want to deal with the issuer. So it's in terms of reinsurance for the investors, it's a real plus. It's less confusing, let's say. Also, Tokeny is not a broker-dealer or regulated, so we are not selling anything to investors. the issuer. So it's important that it's clear they are dealing with the issuer, not with us.
Right.
We are like PowerPoint. You cannot regulate PowerPoint. Of course, you can do presentation about finance on PowerPoint, but it's not PowerPoint. So that's the second point. And also, more and more, we work with multi-issuers. So people doing a lot of offerings, such as investment banks, asset managers, marketplaces, and so on. And they want to build their own audience of investors. So we are not building an audience of investors. It's their own investors. So it's important to use their brand and not ours.
That's the issuance part of the stack. Next would be management and kind of ongoing servicing. So maybe you can talk about the Tokeny platform itself and how throughout the life cycle of a security token, Tokeny has really built this platform to be tailor-made for both issuers and investors and the different value that you've created through these products on the platform.
Yeah. So indeed, when you issue securities, digital securities, you will mostly benefit from the digital aspect after the sale. So after the sale, we provide a servicing platform. We have interfaces for the issuer and interfaces for the investors in white label. So on the issuer side, you can select the token you want to manage because it's multi-token, multi-offering. And on a single dashboard, and then with different tools, you can manage everything. So a transaction report, a position report, manage its investors, manage some corporate actions, to have direct communications links with its investors. You can manage this ecosystem, so the KYC providers authorized to validate investors, exchanges, etc. So it's a full control panel, a full dashboard to control everything during the life cycle of the token. So you can manage your token supply, the recovery request if you have some investors who lost their wallet. So the issuer can control everything, or he can delegate some tasks to another agent, to a custodian, and so on.
That's great.
And on the investor side, we provide as well a website in white label where basically investors can register, pass KYC to become eligible for this offering. And when they are eligible, they can manage their on-chain identity and see their tokens, participate into corporate actions, and so on. And this investor website is built on top of our API, and this API is available. So more and more, we work with marketplaces, distributors, robot advisors, so they can build their own interface on top of our API and personalize the experience for the investors. Because you don't sell real estate as you sell private equity, so each distributor is more and more customization.
There's a couple of things to unpack there here at the end. We talked a little bit about transfers. We also talked about linking up to secondary trading platforms. Maybe we can tackle the transfer component first. You have built a standard for compliant transfers of security tokens. And tied into all of this is this program that you created, Investor ID, which allows investors to generate their own on-chain identity to access and trade their security tokens through this TREX standard. Can you kind of walk us through how you think about TREX fitting into the whole ecosystem here that you've built, and then how the investor ID and the ID management is plugged in to all of the layers of what the Tokeny platform is?
Yeah, sure. So indeed, it's good to say you issue a security token, but this security token cannot be a standard ERC20. Because if you do that, you will not be able to enforce compliance within transfers. So basically, it will be illegal in most countries. So we came up with a technical standard. It's open source. It can be used by anybody. Called the TREX, Token for Regulated Exchanges. So it's a way to code and to deploy security tokens, and these tokens are permissioned, meaning every time there is a transfer, the token itself will request an authorization of transfer from a validator. So this validator is on-chain. So Tokeny is never a single point of failure, let's say. Everything happens directly on the blockchain. And in this validator, you have two kinds of validations. you have the offering rules, such as maximum number of investors, authorized country, and so on. And then you have the investor rules with the identities. So to be an eligible investor, you need to have this type of information in your identity, verified by this third party, authorized by the issuer. So basically, it's a whole system to enforce compliance in every transfer. And we really think identities are key among this whole ecosystem. Because if you use a new infrastructure, you need to identify people on this infrastructure. So this infrastructure is a blockchain. Before, the infrastructure where each stock exchange or each broker dealer. So it was like in each club you need to register, and then it works as a silos. Now we have the blockchain, which is distributed and shared. So if we identify people directly on the blockchain, we give people the power to manage their own identity, to give access or not to their information. And then you don't need to register everywhere and to repass compliance check everywhere. It's in your identity directly. So when you onboard in an offering, at the end, you get a free identity on chain without doing anything. It's fully automated. You don't even need to pay for the Ethereum gas. You get your on-chain identity and your tokens. And with this identity, then you can do everything. You can manage all of your tokens. If you lose access to your wallet, you can still prove who you are, so you can recover your security tokens. On the secondary market, it works in peer-to-peer because you can prove you are compliant at any time. So identities open a lot of possibilities, a lot of opportunities, and it's very interesting even for banks because KYC are very costly for banks. Whereas it's actually an asset. Now they can monetize their KYC. It can become the guardian of identities of their customers and monetize this in a more and more decentralized world.
Your protocol and your products are leveraging Ethereum. Have you thought about building solutions outside of Ethereum? Are you looking at other blockchains? Are you really kind of plugged into the Ethereum ecosystem? Do you think Tokeny will scale as Ethereum scales, or what are some of the considerations that you're thinking through as you kind of go through that analysis?
So for the moment, we work mostly with Ethereum, but of course we are looking for the other blockchains as well. What we are looking for is interoperability. If everybody is launching a new blockchain, it doesn't work anymore. We will just recreate the existing silos. We like Ethereum because you have 8,000 nodes, so it's resilient enough. The consensus is clear. It works. We can always do better, but it works. It's improving quite well and quite fast, actually. And we don't think people need to control the nodes of a blockchain if they can control the financial instrument itself. That's what we do with T-Rex tokens. And basically, because we are not reinventing the whole blockchain, we are going way faster than anyone else. Banks are working on blockchain projects for years, but nothing came out because it's super complex topics. On our side, we benefit from the amazing community of Ethereum and the thousands of developers working on Ethereum every day. And we take all of this technology and we applied it to finance. So that works quite well. So we hope that other blockchain will be good enough soon to be able to handle securities, but so far it's not that easy. Of course, we are looking closely at Tezos, EOS, that kind of blockchain. Those are very, very interesting, quite young, but very interesting. And also Libra, because on paper, Libra is the perfect blockchain, mixing the benefits from a public blockchain, like open with a big community of developers, because it's from Facebook, and Facebook has a very big community of developers with RxJS and so on. And also the advantages of a private blockchain, because you will have a small number of nodes where you know exactly who is behind. So you have some liable people, responsible people. So in terms of regulation, it can be quite good. And of course, this stablecoin that will fix a lot of problems.
This is the first I've heard of a team looking at Libra seriously in the security token space. I know you have quite a bit of experience with the technology, and I'm understanding your reasoning. I guess my big question is, do you think Libra will eventually launch, and do you think that this is a viable path for security tokens in the future?
Yeah, we actually did a full study internally about it. I think we'll publish some paper about it quite soon. But definitely, it's an interesting blockchain. I think, and mostly I hope that they will succeed to launch the project. I think the American could change their mind about Libra when China will launch his own initiative.
That's true.
But I don't think Libra is for next year. It's probably for in 2 or 3 years. But honestly, they did a very impressive job.
So it sounds like Ethereum in your mind has the largest ecosystem and support just across the board, whether it's nodes or service providers or folks that are building on top of it. And so the interoperability on Ethereum for security tokens today makes a lot of sense.
Exactly.
And you're still researching and you're looking down the road, and there are a couple of interesting projects. You mentioned EOS and Tezos and potentially Libra. And so you're doing the research now to see if there is a viable path forward for these other chains while continuing to support and build on the Ethereum ecosystem.
Exactly. We honestly, we really like Ethereum, and when you see where is the market right now in terms of business, Ethereum fits perfectly, and you still have some problems about confidentiality of transactions, that kind of things. But some solutions are already emerging, whereas the problem is not even really there. So, I mean, it pushes us to be innovative. But so far we have no problem with Ethereum. Of course, we can build a better blockchain, but a better blockchain will be a blockchain that people actually use.
Right.
It's like a social network. You can build a better Facebook. Maybe not now. It's maybe too late. But before it was possible to launch a better Facebook, but nobody would use it. So.
It's true. The network effects would have to be rebuilt as well. So, Luc, what type of assets is Tokeny seeing the most demand for by way of security tokens right now? Is it startup equity? Is it mid-stage fundraising? Is it tokenized debt, real estate, commercial real estate? Where are you at Tokeny seeing the most adoption today for this technology?
Real estate, definitely. In the past few months. So before it was private equity. People going for STOs. It's like, we wanted to do an ICO, but it's actually equity, so we wanted to be compliant, so I want to do an STO. We still have some interesting projects for private equity, but for bigger companies. But more and more, we see real estate as an emerging asset class. Why? Because it's tangible, because it's usually illiquid. Because it's kind of easy to define a price. There's a lot of parameters to define the price of an asset. So more and more we have real estate projects and funds as well, investment funds. So for like VCs or real estate as well.
Where do you think the bigger opportunity lies in the next few years? Is it, smaller real estate deals, let's just say, the under the $5-10 million size, or is it bigger commercial real estate opportunities, properties with high unit costs? The reason I ask is I've had an opportunity to interview a few folks at this point who are tackling different problems within the real estate sector. Some are really focused on these big CRE deals. Others are focused on, single family homes. I guess my question is for Tokeny, where are you seeing the greatest amount of leverage at this point for what you're building? Is it these smaller real estate deals, or are they bigger? I guess, how do you evaluate real estate as it relates to security tokens today?
We see both very big projects and very small ones. I think what is the most attracting so far is when it's still tangible for investors. For example, we have a project here in Luxembourg. They want to tokenize real estate because if you want to buy an apartment in Luxembourg, the minimum is 500K. And every year it takes 10%. So it's a very good investment to invest in real estate in Luxembourg, but most people don't have 500K to invest like this. So if you fractionalize this investment opportunity, it becomes super attractive. So yeah, that kind of project is very, very interesting and actually very easy to do. But the financial institutions are coming as well, and that whole networks to make it happen with very large deals. So on our side, technically, it doesn't change much, to be honest.
I'd be remiss if I didn't get a chance to ask about the Euronext announcement. They're the largest stock exchange in continental Europe. They have around 1,500 listed companies worth about 4.1 trillion in market cap. You were raising a round. They subscribed the entire round. They purchased a pretty sizable stake in strong governance representation in Tokeny this summer. I guess, why is this investment so important from your perspective? What does this mean for the future of your business to have such a sizable partner in your corner?
It was very interesting when we announced this fundraising on the market, because it was a big wave on the market, at least in Europe. Whereas it's actually a small investment. I mean, 5 million is not. We're not a unicorn. It's what we need, so we are very happy about it. But the reaction of the people from the ecosystem was very, very strong. Why? Because Euronext is a central player in Europe. It's kind of neutral because they work with every banks, every asset managers. It's a group of stock exchanges. So a group like this saying tokenization will happen, and tokenization will happen at least partially with Tokeny. It's a very, very strong sign for the market. It's a very, very strong indicator. So a lot of reaction, very positive reactions. And for us as a startup, of course, it gives us credibility, because of course we did an intensive due deal with our next team before the investment, and we really share the same vision with Euronext. It's a very innovative company, big one, but very agile actually. We really have interesting exchanges with them for the moment, and a lot of plans. Of course, there are strategic plans, so I will not be able to explain everything today.
Of course.
But yes, an actor like this can help the market to define the standards and to be sure it goes in the right direction. So it's exactly what we need.
Luc, wrapping up, what does the rest of 2019 look like for Tokeny and for the industry as a whole? Maybe you can just share how you're thinking about the second half of this year as we kind of round out a summer. What are kind of your expectations for the industry over the next few months?
I hope some big players will officially launch their blockchain activities, because all of them have projects, but none of them want to talk about it publicly. And it's a pity, because if everybody was talking about it, people will find new ideas, new solutions, and it will be more collaborative. So of course, banks are competitors between each other, but it's a pity that they still try to control everything, whereas they want to use a shared infrastructure. So hopefully they will be a bit more open, and hopefully we can help them with this, especially on the KYC side. Mutualizing KYC would be so amazing. There are many ways to do it, but it's politically hard to do it. And for Tokeny, definitely the end of the year will be very busy. We have a lot of things to develop, technically speaking. A lot of key partnerships to conclude as well. And I think we will announce new products only when they are really live working with clients. Try to explain it more it could work pragmatically, concretely, and we'll probably select a few projects to announce them publicly, to explain them publicly. But I think we are more in We need to apply your roadmap. We just got the investment. We have a lot to do. So we're getting ready for the explosion of the market current of next year.
Luc, it's always fun to sit down with you and learn more about what you're building over at Tokeny. Thanks for joining me on Security Token Stories.
Thank you very much, Eric. Thank you.
That's it for this week's episode of Security Token Stories. For more Security Token content, visit us online at securitytokenacademy.com and subscribe to our newsletter, The Security Token Edge, which lands in your mailbox each weekend. You can also keep up with the latest security token news by following us on Twitter, Telegram, YouTube, Facebook, and Medium. Before we go, a big thank you to Security Token Academy's Platinum and Gold corporate members who make this podcast possible. You can learn more about Security Token Academy's corporate members at securitytokenacademy.com. I'm Derek Edward Schloss. From all of us here at Security Token Academy, thanks for listening.
Security Token Academy does not provide investment or legal advice. We are not a registered broker-dealer or investment advisor. Opinions expressed in this podcast are the speaker's own and do not necessarily reflect the views of Security Token Academy. More information can be found on our website at securitytokenacademy.com.